Let's talk about UAE though. I mean, this is 2nd of March, so we've just ended the first 6 weeks of racing just about. 11 wins, 3 of them at World Tour level, being UAE, 2 mountain stages, plus the GC with Pogacar. So Pogacar's the only one to have won World Tour races. But Trentin won Le Semaine earlier in the week. You have Covey winning Murcia one day, Andalusia stage, McNulty winning Calviat and Fornardèche, a very high level, and now Jan Palance winning Trofeo Laigueglia, Gaviria winning a couple in Oman. Are UAE, who were so reliant on Pog last year, Benji, becoming a better all-round team?
Covey's a bit of a growing up story. He was a potential rider to win races. He really pushed through this year. He's got his breakout year, and I think that Covey is legit. I think he's going to win a Giro stage. And when it comes to the rest of the squad, there's quite a few riders like this that are slowly but surely growing out of their baby shoes. Like Ayuso, yes, he joined, was it June last year, July last year? He's already growing out of the lower ends of UAE, was a very talented rider, is only 19 and is getting these results already. Yes, he's not winning yet, but he's the kind of rider that gets Covey's results of last year, and at a certain point, he's going to win a race. So these type of riders are just growing and progressing, and as a consequence, that makes the UAE team a broader team, a more in-depth team, a deeper team to make sure that they can send riders like this to races like Laigueglia and are able to stack that and outnumber people in the final, outnumber the competitions in the final. It's the outnumbering by being a deeper squad in a race like this that matters, and being able to stack such riders in a race like this means that you most likely have quite a few riders of a decent level in your squad, definitely compared to some of the other World Tour squads we have. Now, when we look at the incoming transfers, we spoke about it in the UAE pod, we had the preview pod. I think that also is with the goal of expanding the width of the team. Like, why do you get a sprinter Ackermann? You get also Hutch in the squad, Milano, Gaviria. Those are 4 sprinters. Well, the only reason that could give is that you want to send them to more races. Yeah, Ackermann is perhaps a bit of overkill. I agree with that. But I think that's also the reason why they got Almeida, for example, to stack it in the Giro and the Vuelta so that Pogacar can do the Tour and perhaps the Vuelta so that they have options in every single Grand Tour for GC. So I think that's the goal here for UAE, and I think they're doing it well so far. It's curious. McNulty, forgot to talk about him. Also a rider that is now having a bit of a breakout year in terms of being able to do well in one-day races as well, you know?
Yeah, McNulty's definitely improved. I would say in terms of World Tour sprints, still no good. In terms of GC, yep, Pogacar sorted for his races. Almeida sorted there. Hill Classics, still, it's all Pogacar. So if he's not there, Formula is the next best maybe. And Classics, it's all on Trentin, who, as we saw in Omloop in the World Tour Classic, is isolated and he's just not as good as other guys. So in these sort of hilly non-World Tour races, they are looking good. Are UAE going to be dominating Liège? I mean, Pogacar won it last year, but maybe with Hirschi back, perhaps. But
yeah,
I'm not sure they are like the new superpower just because they've won 8.1.pro races in February. Obviously, Pogacar, they've still got the trump card of the best all-round GC rider in the world. That's the most important piece to have. But in terms of depth dominating races, I don't see it. I don't see it yet. But if Hirschi comes back, maybe. If McNulty keeps progressing, maybe. Like, if McNulty starts winning 1 week GC races and Almeida as well at World Tour level, Benji, then they have a super team.
But when it comes to the one-day races, there's also that factor of they're sending Pogacar to RVV and Dwars of Vlaanderen now. Is he going to be a factor in the final in those races? I'd expect him to be quite involved. But it's also something we'll see, I guess, and something we need to observe before we can judge whether that's going to be a factor of improving their Classics team as well. But again, that's kind of putting an extra burden on Pogacar, I would say.
Yeah, and you see Alaphilippe not doing the Classics this year for Quickstep, despite being one of the top riders for it, and focusing on the Ardennes and the Tours. So how that will affect Pog, I'm not sure. Maybe heightened crash risk. But that's UAE.